Good day everyone, so hope you're doing really well. Let's do a bit of a fun video where we analyze the fight between Capitano and Mavuika frame by frame. Well, this is going to be a bit of a long video, but hopefully you'll find this interesting. There's a lot of debate on the internet whether the one is stronger than the other, was this a draw, but if you look at this frame by frame, you'll notice an interesting theme in this fight. So basically in the beginning, Capitano has the overwhelming upper hand, and you'll see some evidence for this. He fights with one hand behind his back. He's much quicker on the counter attack, but later on when Mavuika activates obviously her full Pyro Archon power with the flaming hair, Capitano is kind of put back. You know, he's being driven back. He needs to use both hands to parry Mavuika, for instance, and then obviously he sustains quite a bit of damage. And I think this is the key difference between Mavuika and Capitano. She basically comes off of this unscathed. Even at the end, Iansan asks her, "Are you okay, Archon?" And she's just like, she's not even concerned about how she's feeling. She's just remarking about the fight, which is just insane because you can clearly see Capitano took kind of a bit of damage. And I think if you had to put a winner on this, it would really be Mavuika, but only after activating her Pyro Archon power, and we'll get into all the evidence. So let's go through this frame by frame and just see how things happen. So right here in the beginning, you can see Mavuika launches an attack. In the beginning, Capitano does the same. So we're going right here in the middle, and this is where we get the first little bit of a climactic scene. You know, the clashing of the blades right here in the middle. Very, very beautiful, very cinematically well done. And you can also appreciate it by going, you can see it's frame by frame, just how much the animators put into this. It's just these frame by frame moments that gives you a sense of appreciation. But what is very clear just here from the first frame, as you can see here, Capitano is using one hand whilst Mavuika is using both hands in the initial exchange. So very, very good. You can see it almost seems like it is even in terms of just that initial dash, but this is just the first clash. They're kind of sizing up each other in terms of power and so on, and obviously Mavuika knows the captain is very, very powerful. But in any case, so here she is, she tries to drive him back, and what he does is very, very clever in my opinion. He uses her momentum that she does here to kind of realign himself, so he dodges right. So you can see here it's almost like she's leaning through her attack, and in this moment whilst both are recovering, he quickly sets up a counter attack. And I've got to hand it to the captain here. These little icicles fly at an insane speed, and I think you'll appreciate this a bit later on as well. Look at that. You can see here he forms the icicles, one hand behind his back. There's the first one right here firing off, boom. And what's now, you'll see just in a couple of frames, what's amazing is that this almost grazes Mavuika's head. That is how fast this is. You can see here she barely kind of dodges this. It's almost like the Matrix. Very, very good. So you can see here she kind of sees that this is, you know, he's being very, very serious in this fight. Obviously she parries, and then she recomposes herself. She goes in, breaks through the ice very much. You can see her quickly, rapidly repositioning, presumably to dodge or just to find an attack or an opportunity for a counter attack, lunges at him at great speed, and he just tanks it like that. It's so crazy. Just with one hand he stands there, and her current human form just is not enough. You can see it looks like he's just handling this with ease. They're parrying. Once again she swings with both hands, he blocks with just his right hand. She goes up, really tries to drive it in, he parries it again. It's so good. He knocks up her sword. Look at this. So she goes in for a massive swing from the left, and he just at that instance just parries up the blade. Really, really good. So this shows you how strong Capitano is, and what's now going to follow is obviously Capitano trying to take advantage of this by slashing right through, and then she's very, very clever trying to dodge around him on his head. But Capitano is obviously very experienced, so he reacts instantly and then just kicks her while she's still mid-air. So this is a true master of combat. You can see here, he's got a ton of battle experience, knocks her up, he eats her up in the air, but she just tanks it. And I think this is the thing about Mavuika. She is so incredibly durable. She summons a massive AoE attack, so obviously her Claymore attacks could not connect, so why not go for an area-wide effect? This would clearly hit the captain, and I think you can see here, just from the impact frames and stuff, he is clearly bracing for this attack. But not only that, he uses the smoke screen in the background here to quickly launch a follow-up attack. So this is just both of these characters being on their toes, and this is so fast. This ice shot that he throws at her really goes at such a speed that, look at that, she is hit by it. Once again, this just shows you she's hit, and she then uses obviously the momentum to glide off of it. So she takes a bit of the impact, glides off of it in mid-air. As you can see, it just launches like a rocket, and she obviously then like spins throughout the air. This is just for her to maintain balance and control as she does a controlled descent. And at this point, you can see here, she notices that Capitano is just going all out. It's just, look at this, I'm counting 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 like massive chunks of ice that's just going to be hitting her at an incredible speed. So you can see if there's his hand and he's like go, and if you just look at the impact or just the frames itself, just look at this, it's just going to be, look at that, just one frame, it's just like, so he is firing this off at a speed which is just incomprehensible. And I think it's at this point that Mavuika's like, yeah, you know what, I'm not going to beat him in my human form. And I would also contend that up until now she's been on the back foot. So she obviously goes Super Saiyan mode, and this is really, really cool. So this is now Pyro Archon mode. And what's really cool is she's obviously dashes, and the weapon itself stays behind, but she summons it just through, I think, assuming her sheer pyro power. And what she's now going to do is, keeping in mind that these attacks are being flung at her at high speed, she is traveling at an even faster speed, breaking up all of these ice attacks. That's just, you've got to hand it to like Pyro Archon Mavuika. That is beyond insane. So she just slices through things, and here we get the beautiful final lesson reference to Honkai Impact the Third with Himiko, and obviously the Hirshov Flameskion. That's just, well, I butchered that pronunciation. In any case, that's Kiana both using this type of attack, so this is where we get a bit of a homage to that, and it's just beautiful how she completely shatters all of these ice crystals, and they're just being flung everywhere. But did you notice that in the background, whilst she breaks it up, the captain already plans his next move. He goes up in the air because he wants to strike from above, trying to see if he can catch her off guard. But this is what's so beautiful, and the animators did a good job here. You can see here, whilst he quickly went up, Mavuika in that instant like knows he's up there. It just tells you that it's she's a formidable fighter to just recognize that she sees the attack from above. He goes in for a full lunge, and she stands her ground and just parries it. So this is really, really, really cool. And you can see here, if you look at that, it almost looks like there's like an explosion or like a little mini black hole forming. Obviously it's just a cinematic effect, but this then blows up everything. It's really crazy. And you can see here the rest of the mob is just, they're just like, well, they're being blown back just by the sheer force. Also, whilst the ice crystals that Mavuika shattered are being launched in the air. And keep that in mind, because what you're about to see is just how fast these two are going to fight. The speed at which they're going after this is beyond anything I think we've seen so far in Teyvat. So obviously, you can see these two are busy duking it out with the colors in the background. They're just hitting them. So basically, Ian-san and Kinich here, they haven't even recovered from the recoil of the wind, and these two are already like clashing at high speed. This is the implication. So obviously, as an audience, they don't want to let us like feel left out. So we are now seeing this effectively in slow-mo, but this is these two fighting at an incomprehensible speed. Look at that, they are just clashing. And what's now really interesting about their clashes is just, if we look at this, Capitano is using both hands. He's using both hands and at least some sort of magic here to try and guard against Mavuika's attack. Obviously, she's in a very nice position, but you can see there, I mean, his head is down. He's using both hands. This is very much a defensive stance. So she is laying into him in terms of the attack. This is such a good like showcase of saying she's now the one driving him back. And we'll get a bit more of an example of this. So obviously, they finish off the clash. She just, you can see there, so it's this is what's so crazy. After the clash, Mavuika just, look at that, she just attacks so quickly, and he didn't even dodge it. He tried to get some distance between himself and Mavuika, and he goes into aerial mode, and she just unleashes all of these balls of fire. Now if Capitano was really that super strong, he would be able to parry this, but instead he flies away because he knows this is a very high impact attack. And keep in mind, all of these crystal shards that have been broken by Mavuika's attack are busy floating in the air. This is the thing you need to realize. Mavuika and Capitano are currently fighting at a speed which is insane. And what's even more insane about this is that if you now look here, the attacks home in on Capitano, and he just goes, you'll see here just a moment, he goes supersonic, or like he goes into an if he's running, let's say at Mach 10, he's now going Mach 11. Look at that, even faster. And the attacks, they just, you're going to go fast, we're going to hone in faster. And once again, he does another like acceleration in the air because these attacks are busy honing in on him, and he needs to reposition. Just think in that moment, how is he going to approach Mavuika, because she really has now the upper hand. And you can see here he just like goes even faster. Another time when he just accelerates once again, we can see it with the air being pushed forcefully in the background. And what he's doing now is quite interesting. He looks back at the attack to try and dodge it, and you can see the attack actually catched up with him. This just shows you, even whilst flying at presumably supersonic speed, Mavuika's attacks are gonna land. And he does a very, very clever thing. He uses the pillar to try and just like break one of the attacks, hone in on it. Very clever from the captain, shows you his experience. And he just needs to now try and reposition himself. But before he can do so, you can see Mavuika, she planned the pin. So she basically used the attacks to try and get him into a position, and then she's just going to go in from the side. So as the Pyro Archon, whilst everything is floating still, remember, so nothing is just, these two are fighting at high speed, she just goes in for the pinch, and these two clash once again. He needs to like face her, but you can see here, even after that clash, he is the one trying to move away, and she's just going boom, hitting him, smashing him. So these two are now just clashing at a brutal speed. They're just going all out, if in my opinion. And you can see here once again, Capitano using both hands to try and parry this. So I think a lot of people might say, but what about Capitano's delusion form or transformation? I think if he is being pushed back this far, we would have seen something. And I think him being in the Night Soul state, or whatever state this is him basically fighting at his full power. Because otherwise, why would he not just go out even more? Because Mavuika is clearly on the edge, in the lead right here. You can see he tries to strike, but what's interesting is that Mavuika herself, if you look at the animation, seems to be the one always connecting first, which is so crazy. At least that's what I can read in from going into slow motion. Look at this. Once again, his blade is up here. It goes in because he needs to like wind up a bit, but she is already like busy following through with her blade. That's just more evidence of it. And this is now the one time where you can see Mavuika is just using one hand to parry him, whilst he's like using both hands to like work in this clash. It's so insane. In any case, you can see her once again, look at that. She is hitting him, and that's just with one hand. Now Mavuika is using one hand, and Capitano has to use both hands to defend. So this is a role reversal from what we saw in the beginning, and it's just so crazy. You can see her, she just knocks him up in the air, and then obviously her attacks connect right there. So presumably what happens is Capitano's probably trying to defend that, or he's like taking the hits, and Mavuika here just like charges up even more, and she's just now going into it. Capitano obviously being as strong as he is, and he is really powerful, is just going to come in and be like, you know what, I'm just going to thrust it all. And the moment these two connect, this is the first time that both of their weapons just literally break. It is such a beautiful impact frame, and you can see here just what the animators did to give you the sense of this was a powerful clash. Look at that, it's so gorgeous. In any case, what you can see now, and this is interesting, is that Mavuika is the first to look back at Capitano. So this is an interesting thing. If he was the one to look back first, then he would be aware of where she is. But she is so quick, even in this hyperspeed moment with all the crystal shards floating in the air, she's so quick to look back that she knows exactly where he is. And now you can see he's looking back at her. He's now going to like dash, use the full momentum of that floating ice block, which is, by the way, let's just see if we can, yeah, you can see here in the background these ice shards are busy falling. So it's just once again leading credence to the fact that Mavuika slashed these things, they're going up in the air, they're falling down, and in between that we had all of this fighting and action. It just shows you that these two were fighting on a completely different level. In any case, so here we get to the final clash. So both of them are going to use the ice to launch at each other at like high speed. We're also told in the game that this is the moment Mavuika literally activates her full power as a Pyro Archon, and then she is just going to lay in on him. One thing I want you to notice is that her eyes are like shining, and it almost looks like, I don't know if it's just me, it looks like she's not at full power. It looks like she's at half power. I don't know if she's like if she's already used some of the flame to sustain the sacred flame. I don't know whether this has got any meaning, but hey, that could just be me. Regardless, so these two kind of come in, and one thing you need to notice is that they are in the air. Right, so they are kind of high up in the air, and what's going to happen in this clash is that they're going to now go to the ground. And how I interpret this, just by going through the frame by frame, is that Mavuika literally knocked him down onto the stadium from where they are in the air, considering that she's the one coming from the top and he was like going up towards her. So this is a very important detail that I think a couple of people miss. In any case, we see the big clash, the big ball of fire, and I think that you can see that impact right there is just so crazy. I think that's the moment she landed the hit on him, and obviously everyone is just knocked back once again. It's so crazy, and now you can see all the crystals are falling. This is actually just an indication that, hey, you know, this battle seems to be pretty over, and there's quite a considerable amount of time that is passing here. So if Capitano was like really fighting again at high speed, he would have been already able to strike, but he's not striking. It's now basically we're clearing the battlefield. You can see Mavuika just standing there proud, and obviously she tanked a lot of hits earlier, but it's not like she's done yet. I mean, she's in a position just from her body language to say, hey, I'm ready for a follow-up. And Capitano obviously falls down to his knee here. This is very much an animated way of saying that, yeah, he took serious damage. I mean, this is not him being weak or anything. This is just the Pyro Archon delivering an incredible blow. And you can see him. Mavuika's like, you know what? I'm not done yet. And he is just like, oh crap. You know, he realizes he needs to get up. He needs to fight. And let's see if we can get a good view on the wound. There we go. That's kind of a serious wound. She hit right in his heart or chest area. It's not, and considering how he behaved, kudos to him for like withstanding that, because that's a full forced like blow from a Pyro Archon, and he's like ready, you know. It's like, okay, come on, let's keep on doing this. And obviously he got rescued here, and we know that Mavuika could have dispelled all of this, and the rest of the story goes on. So from that perspective, whilst this was an epic fight, I don't think that it is as even as people make it out to be. What I can definitely see going through the slow-mo is that in human form, Capitano would run over like Mavuika in her human form, sorry. But the moment she goes full Archon power, it seems like she definitely had the edge. And and I can honestly, I think, presume to, or how can I put it? If the fight had continued, I'm very sure that Mavuika would have probably just like beaten him up. Never minding the fact that we still have Kinich and Yin-san there, so they can also help her as backup. There is the Sacred Flame in the background, so if Mavuika, I presume, really needed to tap into the Sacred Flame even more to fight Capitano, I'm pretty sure she would have even been able to do so. But I mean, look, kudos to him. He fought in a way that we've never seen before in Genshin, and I think apart from the Raiden Shogun, Zhongli, and like Dragon Sovereign Neuvillette, I don't think anyone in Teyvat could even match Capitano at this point, obviously barring full power Mavuika. So yeah, that's a slow motion breakdown of this fight. That's what I can interpret from what the animators have shown us. Maybe there was a different intention, but that is certainly how I look at it. Overall, it is really impressive considering how fast they were moving, and I think that is to me the most impressive part. These two clashing in mid-air whilst all these crystals are slowly falling to the ground. It just shows you just how quickly this battle went. It was almost literally over within an instant. Alright guys, that's it from my side, and thank you for watching.